Oh boy, it's time for another episode of Mr. Nailsin's Wednesday Comics, and since the final episode of Daredevil Born Again on DP, was broadcast, I didn't care for it. I think the whole show was a failure. It was unfortunate. I'm very disappointed in it. Even though there was no chance that it would bear any resemblance to its namesake from the brilliant Frank Miller and Dave Mazzucchelli, Born Again story in the 80s of Daredevil. So, for the sake of a comic book show, I thought, well, let's take a look at this, and got a few screen grabs of the pages. Put that in there. Already, I can tell you, it comes with my highest recommendation to get the collection. It's all collected together like a real graphic novel. You know, a graphic novel, you would think, would be something that was intended to be a full novel. But a lot of things are just the different individual comic books put together. But in the case of Born Again, it works. It works very well. Some of the stories really don't, but anyway, it doesn't matter. This is one of the great ones, and this was Frank Miller at the top of his game. Of course, later on, he and Mazzucchelli would do Batman Year One, which in a lot of ways, I was going to say superior. It's easily one of the best Batman stories of all time. But damn, Daredevil Born Again can give it a run for its money. And there's a lot of elements to it. And you didn't have to have been reading the series all along to catch up. I mean, it establishes the importance of the different characters, who they are, and the background cast for Daredevil. Foggy, of course, Karen Page, and that love story. Even though it's been long over, but their reunion takes place throughout this story. Story of being born again, of redemption, being put through the ringer, and all that. There's a lot of biblical themes in it, and so on and so forth, and elements of Daredevil's past that even he didn't fully understand or knew. And also an interesting take on how the villain can really beat down the hero, and what the Kingpin does here demonstrates that, and it really hasn't been done that way since in any of the comic book stories. Usually it's, the villain comes up with some means, but the weakness that the hero has, they'll attack their family, and that sort of thing, even if in this case they find out the secret identity of the hero, all of that type of stuff. Superman, of course, you hit him with kryptonite, all that, that kind of thing. Here, it's a different kind of power that Kingpin has, and it's a power that really exists. His tentacles are everywhere into the avenues and elements of power, and he starts pulling on those tentacles to take down Daredevil, and ultimately his obsession is what undoes it all. So here you got this interesting cover here. There he is, Daredevil, and heroic pose, recalling earlier images of Daredevil rescuing Karen Page, and so on and so forth. Then, of course, Daredevil being a devout Catholic, you have a lot of Catholic imagery there. This particular character becomes very important in the story. And oh, gee, I wonder who this represents. Well, the devil, sure, but in this story, so there we go. So we get the beginning here, and I knew, they're not going to depict any of this in DP, even though they had all the blood and gore, especially in the final episode of the Daredevil Born Again the show. This right here is one of the elements that they probably didn't want to deal with. So basically it begins, Karen Page broke up with Matt Murdock some time ago and moved to California. Yes, she does that in the show. but she doesn't end up like this. She went to pursue an acting career, and, well, it didn't work out. She ended up becoming a porn star. So here's the guy saying, hey, I've seen you at stag parties and all this sort of stuff. Well, she's become a heroin addict, and she's desperate for money for a fix. And the only thing she's got left is the secret identity of Daredevil. And so she sells it to this mobster. And there you go. Daredevil, okay, I said it. I said the name. And he's got another name, and it's written down right here. You want it or not? So she's at the bottom as far as she can go, and she's betraying Matt Murdock. So that's the first thing here. So, of course, this reaches all the way to the States. They're actually in South America, I believe, somewhere like that. But anyway, so this guy is looking to trade this information for more of what, money and whatnot. And, of course, it reaches who? Hey, who could this silhouette be? Well, Kingpin. So he's having a little vacation cruise here. And this information reaches him. He gets it, and he begins his takedown of Daredevil. And all these people involved are to be killed. And all of them are. Spoiler, except Karen. They try, but Karen manages to escape in this. So here we get a view of Kingpin's real seat of power. He's got congressmen, military people, all kinds of people in his back pocket, and he pulls on all of that to slowly, methodically destroy Matt Murdock's life. Which he does. His assets, his financial assets are frozen. He pulls strings to get that done. His light bill is like the payment defaults or whatever, so he doesn't have any electricity in his home. Meanwhile, he's losing his mind as Daredevil, trying to find out who the hell is tormenting Matt Murdock. Now, of course, who else? But nevertheless, and the Kingpin is aware of all this. So, he's seeing these are photographs of Matt not looking so great. He's not combing his hair and stuff because he's suffering terribly with all this. His whole life is falling apart. His law license gets suspended, just on and on and on. And he's sitting there with a grin on his face, enjoying this. He doesn't just outright kill him. He wants to enjoy his slow destruction. And, of course, this is more of the scene of Daredevil's losing it. He's making all kinds of mistakes. He's becoming increasingly violent. And he's demanding to know, why is Matt Murdock being targeted? And again, he's like, So he's brought up on some trumped-up charges, and Foggy does his best to defend him and manages to get him, with a slap on the wrist so he doesn't have to go to prison. And Kingpin is actually almost at the point of thinking maybe he should take Foggy out and all this sort of thing, But it's enough that Murdock is done. He's got nowhere to go. He loses everything. His home is ultimately destroyed. And you see slowly things are decreasing and getting bad. He's in some crappy little room. That's about all he can afford. And the suffering continues. And finally, after his home is actually destroyed, he puts it all together and says, this can only be Kingpin. So he goes to confront Kingpin. He sneaks in to his home, and Kingpin, he's not naked. He's wearing drawers, but he was working out, and he's expecting Murdock to show up anyway, and he's happy to see him because, he's victorious. Meanwhile, Karen Page is still just an absolute mess, trying to get some kind of passage out of Mexico because her deal, she already shot up whatever money she made off of betraying Matt, so she's just a sad, pathetic creature at this point. But the only thing keeping her going is her guilt at what she's done. It's driving her She could have just OD'd or whatever, you know, but she's desperate to find Matt Murdock. Meanwhile, Matt, of course, strikes out against Kingpin, but, well, it doesn't go well. And now we see where he's residing in an alley with Bob. So he's completely broken and destroyed. He gets attacked. He nearly dies. And he ends up at this shelter run by this nun who's a particular person of import to Daredevil. And you will have to read the book to find out. Karen does make it back. She reunites with Matt Murdock, and despite everything, he forgives her, and he nurses her back to health. And it's it's a romantic thing in the sense that she's aware that all the agony and pain she's going through, but with his super senses, he knows just the proper nerve endings and muscles to massage to try to ease her suffering as you go. So it's just great, beautiful artwork that Mazzucchelli does here in capturing the different phases of what takes place. And ultimately, yes, Daredevil's coming back, but Kingpin has an imposter to ruin his good name. Well, that doesn't go over well. And then he has to pull in strings off of the federal government to get this super duper pooper scooper new super soldier that no one knows about, that the U.S. government had been using in black ops operations, and wants him to come kill Daredevil for him. And at this point, you see, due to his obsession, Kingpin is also losing it, very much like Matt Murdock did. So there are the parallels in the mirrors, something that the TV series tried to replicate in its own narrative. And they sort of achieved that, but it just isn't as compelling. And so Kingpin, his obsession with Matt Murdock and his inability to kill him at this point. And, of course, he's like, all I did was make him stronger. He's not dead. He's going to be a more formidable opponent. And now he's sending this superpowered man to kill him, but even that ultimately doesn't work, and pulling that favor in is too much exposure to people in very high places, and so ultimately it's crumbling down Kingpin's power. So the Avengers show up. Now, hey, look, it's MCU and stuff. You could have done something like, but yeah, that was never going to happen. So this gets the interest of Captain America in the story because, he was the original super soldier. There's a new one, but he's a really pathetic nut of a man, drugged up and stuff. It's all very sad and whatever. But ultimately, Daredevil's back. He is truly born again, and he's a much more dangerous and formidable enemy for Kingpin. And he's got Karen back. They're back together, and they survive. So that's the victory. Kingpin does not go to prison or any of that. But as a result of this, basically, the awesome power that he had at the beginning is all but gone. He's very diminished. And that in and of itself is almost unbearable to him. It's an odd way of doing this. That, you do get the actual physical conflict early on where Matt, like I showed you, breaks in and all that. But ultimately, it's their own psyches that are shattered and destroyed. Matt is able to recover and build it back. And of course, the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's very much the case for him. Whereas Kingpin was so arrogant and so assured of his power and whatnot that it blinded him to the possibilities here. Even though all along, when he realized he wasn't dead initially, he begins to panic, little by little. And it just plays out so well, and there's just no comparison to what the TV show did. And you could have done something like that. I can understand not having the Avengers and stuff like that in there. But just the themes and aspects of destruction, being beaten down and then recovering, redemption, and ultimate judgment, even though the actual sending the Kingpin to prison or whatever doesn't happen, his punishment is probably even more severe than that would have been. Because even in prison, he probably would have, wormed his way into power even from a cell and stuff like that. So here it becomes a big defeat, even though, you don't have Daredevil smashing through his window, tying him up, and dumping him off at the police station or something like that. So it's a great run, and it's a cool take on a realistic approach to power that is used against the hero here, and almost utterly destroys him, as close as you can get, and a believable means by which he recovers and comes back stronger than he was before. So tough act to follow, of course, but it happened, and Nailsin did a good run on Daredevil after this. But it was almost, it really was reborn. They call it reboot these days. But in a lot of ways, the ramifications of this sort of thing, and of course, Kingpin becomes a far more serious villain since then. It really was a landmark a story in comics, in probably one of his most significant ages, which was the 80s, and a lot of stuff going on in there, and this was certainly no different. So there you go, Born Again, the real story, the superior one in every way possible. And even though I never expected anything of the sort from the DP series, they could have done a lot better than what they did. But this was one of the greats, and if you don't have a copy, check it out. It comes with my highest recommendation. All right, I'll find something else to read for next week's Mr. Nailsin Wednesday Comics, and I'll do my best to entertain you with that next time.